Well, well, look what the cat dragged in. Ho, ho, ho! Good tidings! Well, stuff my stockings. Welcome to the stream.
Hello, welcome to Qyjari's Curious Crafts. Today on Aunt Anne's tree, we're going to be making this darling little baby elephant. I love these little guys. They're so cute, and they've got a little place here to hang them up on your tree, or you could make a mobile out of them for a new little addition to your family. I actually have them on my Etsy page now, both in the blue and this pale pink. But today I'm going to make this lavender color one, just in case you know someone who is expecting, then they don't know what they're having. And lavender's a good color for that. Someone mentioned we should do a mint one or a yellow one too, but I've recently done something that was kind of on the greenish side, so I went with lavender instead. We haven't done anything with lavender in a while. So anyway, well, hello Paper Realms. Thank you so much for being here today, even if you're just lurking, that's okay. Let's get started. We have the pattern. If you are a member of my Discord channel, which is the link is down below this way on Twitch, go ahead and join, and you can go to Aunt Anne's tree category and find in that pattern section a PDF of the pattern. This one's one of the easiest ones that we'll do, actually. It doesn't even require a glue gun, so I don't need a Sherbond or glue gun call out this time. It's just basically 5 pieces, and 3 of those are the spots on his little backside. And what's nice about this little ornament is it's actually on both sides. So I've got the spots and the eye and the ear on both sides, so it can actually hang from a mobile, and it's pretty from both sides. Okay, so once you get the pattern, of course, then you'll need the felt to go along with that. Like I said, I've chosen lavender today, but you can choose the pink or the blue or any color, really, whatever you want. And so I've got my lavender felt and some white felt for the spots, and then of course coordinating DMC floss. I use DMC, you can use any floss. Of the 6-strand floss, I use 2 of the strands whenever I do my stitching. For this one, this lavender felt, I have chosen 209, which is the DMC number for that. I also have the white DMC floss and black for the eyes. Now I'm using floss for the eyes instead of just thread. It's thicker and it's safer for these small beads you'll need, and I'll get to that in a second. In addition to the felt and the floss, you'll of course need your 1/8 inch silk ribbon, and that is to make that little ornament hanger holder, the little loop that goes at the top right there, like that. And let me see if my camera's doing that little wonky. Oh, good. Oh, yep, it is a little bit. Let me fix that camera real quick. We don't want that camera to go in and out. It drives me crazy when it does that. 1 second. I'm over on the producer side, so 1 second. Just take the autofocus off. There we go. Okay, much better. Should have done that beforehand, but I was busy crushing some candies in my busy life. Okay, so 1/8 inch ribbon, and you only need about 3 inches of this to make it into that loop, and we'll do that in a little bit. You'll also need 3mm beads. You'll only need 2 of them, 1 for each side. Those are his little eyes. I'll put that in my little tray there. Pins, of course, for your to cut your pattern. Some good sewing scissors. I use Fiskars, they're fabric shears. And then, of course, some nice polyfill stuffing. I use the highest quality because it doesn't pill and it doesn't clump very much. And it has, we also need some needles. And I use these hemostats to stuff, and I think that's pretty much it. It's a very easy pattern here. Okay, so let's get started. I already have my pattern cut out, and I've already got my elephant cut out. And actually, I went ahead and got started because it's both sides. I have already done this side, and I also added a little bit of bling. Now, we did this to our pig ornament back in, I think it was our Valentine's pig back in February for Valentine's Day. And we added some sequins and beads to the spots on our little pig. So I thought that would make a really cute addition to our elephant. So I went ahead and I got some white sequins and some white seed beads to coordinate with that. You could choose any color you want, but I like the white on the white. So I've already got started on that, so let's just get started on this one. I'm going to make sure that they match both sides. I'm going to do the ear first. I'm just going to stack that on top. And you can see on the pattern, I've got a little line there. Right here, where the approximate location of the ear goes. But, you know, put it wherever you'd like. And then make sure it just coordinates and matches with the other side. I usually just make sure it matches right up here at the top. We're going to sew that one on first. Now, when you sew it on, it's actually going to not be sewn on completely. It actually comes up a little bit. So we're going to make that blanket stitch pretty on both sides, but only on this part here will we attach it to sew it to the body. All right, let's move that out of the way. I have pre-threaded my needles, although I still have my readers here just in case. But I am ready to go. Like I said, you take your, normally DMC floss comes in 6 strands. I use 2 of them. So we're just going to start our stitch here. And that first stitch is always straight in, just like that. And then we're going to start again at the top, like that. Let me pull that up there to the camera so you can see what I've done there. My nail broke the other day and it's sort of to the quick in it. It's right there, you can see. Oops, let me pull it this way. There we go. Right there. And we're just going to do that blanket stitch like I've shown you in the past. If you can't see it here, let me show you real quick on my sample. Right here, that's the blanket stitch that we use. And we don't have any corners on this one either, so that's nice, except maybe around the trunk when we stitch that up. I can go a little bit longer today, and my littlest, who normally gets off the bus around the 2 o'clock time, is going to a friend's house, so I have the afternoon free today. So I think I'll be working on some more crafting projects today. Maybe I'll be doing some writing. I need to catch up on some of my writing projects. Tomorrow night is another episode of 3 Sheets 1 Shot, and I probably need to come up with some editing for that today in anticipation for that tomorrow night. I'm also in the process of putting together a drive, I guess you'd call it. I called it, I think I said the Summertime Banana Brothers Summertime Blitz or something. Basically, all the bits and donations and tips that I receive from Memorial Day to Labor Day is going to go toward funding a new program here on Qyjari's Curious Crafts. Since everyone knows that I am a huge Dungeons and Dragons nerd, I'm going to try to get a game going with the Banana Brothers. All right, I'm going to go on that ear, on that corner there on the ear. I'll hold that up to the camera so you can see what I'm doing. I should not have chosen purple nail polish for today. Kind of blends right in. But there is on that corner. But now, I got the shadow off of it. Now I'm going to go just on the ear. So I'm going to pull the body away and continue doing that blanket stitch just around the ear part. Sort of gives it that finishing touch. And this is the one exception on other ornament parts that I've made that are on the interior of the ornament. I just do a straight stitch. But because this one not only attaches using the stitch to the body, the blanket stitch to the body, it sticks out a little bit. With the ear sticks out, and I wanted it to look nicer with the blanket stitch and not just that running stitch. We will use the running stitch on the spots. So then you just continue that all the way around like that. Again, it's about a 1/4 inch, little less. Typically, I try to make it to coordinate with the size. In other words, I'll use a 1/4 inch or larger, maybe a little larger on bigger pieces, and then even as small as 1/8 inch for smaller pieces, smaller, like the mermaid. On the mermaid tail, I made that sort of with tinier stitches, just because it looked too bulky on some of the thinner parts of that ornament to use the large stitch. So just use whatever you think looks nice. Oops. It is a beautiful sunny day here in the Atlanta area. We kind of skipped over spring as per usual, but that's okay with me. I love summertime. I don't like the heat, but I love to see the sunshine. And in our area, school ends before Memorial Day. So our summer starts for the kids here the Wednesday before Memorial Day. That's the last day of school in our area. So we only have another week and a half of school left. And so we look forward to that. The pool opened in our community, so I'm looking forward to taking the girls there too. Okay, so I have gone around the ear, not attaching this outer part to the body, but this part here, and then this last stitch I will put in through the back, and that's where I will knot it, just where I began, in the back. There we go. Normally today we would be rating my friend Autumn, who is an excellent artist. She's also another member of Nerdsmith as a contributor, but she is not going to be streaming today. She chatted with me earlier. Something came up and she's not able to stream, so we're not doing any raids today. But check her out after my show next Thursday. I don't know what I'm going to make next Thursday. I hadn't even thought about it. It'll have to be a surprise, I guess. All right, so now let's sew the dots on. I'm going to put this over here because I'm not going to use that one again. Now, again, I want the dots to coordinate with the other side. It doesn't really have to, but that's what I chose to do. The dots are 3 different sizes. And I've got sort of the large one near the top. I'm going to do this like a mirror here. You do want to leave a nice edge there, and that's where the blanket stitching will go when we attach the two body halves together. Okay, that looks good right there. They might fall off, but if I can get one started, that's okay. What I'm going to do is, it's a funny little trick I learned, and it's just the Scotch in me saving some thread. It's just a tiny bit of thread, but it's just what I do. I'm going to start stitching this in a running stitch here, because then when I get all the way to this side, there's only a little bit of thread that goes from here to here. Then I'll go around this way and then over here. But I'm going to take these off for now, because they're going to fall off anyway. So this is a running stitch. It's just very easy, just an in and out, the basic of all stitching. And just kind of go around. Once these are all stitched on, that's when we're going to add the sequins. Now I could use the sequins, the stitching of the sequins, to apply the spots to its back, but I like the sort of the completionist part of doing the running stitch around. These stitches are about an 1/8 inch wide, but the gap between the stitches is not that wide. At least I try for them not to be. I wonder what other ornament I could make next week. Trying to think of an event that's coming up. I guess I could make something that's patriotic. Maybe, oh, you know what I have never made? I've never made a hot dog ornament. I make a lot of food ornaments. I have a donut, and I've made a pizza before here on the show. And I think a hot dog would be funny. And it would be just in time for Memorial Day. Maybe we'll do that. And summertime too. Maybe I'll come up with a hot dog pattern and see how that works. Or I could make an ice cream cone. Thank you, Anna. Thank you for being here today. Okay. So, I just saw your comment, Anna. I'm sorry. That's what I was talking to Rainick a little bit ago about. Is he mentioned last week that I missed a couple people coming on because I wasn't paying attention to chat. I was looking at the sewing part, and I don't want to miss anybody coming into the channel. So I put that exclamation 2 for the moderators to use, and when they do, Sir Mimsy will say, "Ooh," and that'll prompt me to look up, and that way I won't miss anybody. Yeah, that's a good idea. Maybe I'll do not an ice cream cone, but a popsicle. That would be adorable. That's a good idea. I'm gonna do that, Paper. That's a good idea. I'm gonna do a popsicle. Maybe, you know what we could do? Maybe one of those what are they called that you get at, when we were kids? We get at the ice cream truck. The ones that are red, white, and blue, and the blue part always made your lips and your tongue turn blue. The Rocket Pops or something. That might be a fun ornament to make. I'll see what I come up with. I'll do some sort of popsicle, because I have popsicle sticks. I use those in my D&D terrain building. So that'll be an easy prop to come up with here. Of course, you can buy those by the dozen at craft stores. Or just eat a popsicle and wash it off. I've made ice cream cones before. They're a little more complicated to do on a stream. And I actually used to use real sugar cones. And the unfortunate part about that is they're very delicate, and they break easily. And storing them is difficult between holiday seasons. You don't want to store that kind of stuff in the attic or where it might get moldy. Okay, so that's close. And since it's on the other side, it really doesn't matter, but I wanted it to be a little close. So let's get that last spot on there. And then we will add the sequins. There is another part that we haven't done ever before, but I made his little tail. The pigtail I made out of pigtail. That's funny. The pig's tail that I made for our Valentine pig was, because I wanted it to curl, we used a pipe cleaner. But this one, we're just going to use our coordinating floss and braid it into a little tail. And I've got that prepped over here on my left. So we'll do that after we get the sequins on this side, because this is a fairly easy project to do. Yeah, I'm thinking now how I can make that popsicle stick. Or that popsicle, that'll be, and if I do the red, white, and blue, the rocket pop, then it kind of goes along with the Americana theme for Memorial Day. So that works out. It might have to be a two-parter, but that would work out. Okay, so now let's move to our sequins and seed beads. I made this little tray a while ago out of a lid from a paper box. You can get these, it's like a craft paper box. Paper mache, I think. And I just got it at a hobby store. I can't remember a craft store. It was either Hobby Lobby or Michael's. Could have even been Joann's. And I lined it with black felt, or actually this gray felt, because it was easier for me to see the beads on, and they didn't roll around on my cutting mat. And I find it to be very helpful. And I actually have 3 of them that I use for this purpose, especially on larger projects where I have several sets of beads and sequins and other things that I use. Yes, thank you, Anna. And it was really easy. I just had them laying around the house. I had them for another project. Oh, you know what I think I had them for? I made little mini, out of the box part, not the lid, I made little mini dungeons for my dice. And if you're not a D&D player, you may not get it. But if you have a D20 in the game and in Dungeons and Dragons and you roll a 1, that is a critical failure. And a lot of people joke that they need to put their D20s who roll 1s for them in a jail or a dungeon. And so that's what I use the box for. And then I just used the lid for this. So that was perfect. Okay, I know this might sound a little crazy, but I like odd numbers when I do sequins. I don't know why, it's probably just me. So on the little dot, I've put three little sequin pieces. Uh-oh, my needle came unthreaded. Let me just... So I have 3 on this one, 5 on that one, and 9 on that one. I know, I'm probably just, it's just me. I'm going to snip that because that's never going to make it through that needle with the frayed edge there. Especially with my eyesight. There we go. Okay, so yeah, you know about dice gels, yeah. So that's what I did. In fact, I'll show it to you in a second. It's just to my left. I'm in my streaming studio, but it also doubles as my Dungeons and Dragons room. Because like I said, we're trying to get a D&D with the Banana Brothers game here on stream. Our goal time is the fall, but my brothers, 3 of them are my real life brother. One of them's an honorary brother. They they don't have the streaming equipment like I have. They all live in Florida. And I don't want to produce a D&D stream without everyone having a really good connection and microphone and camera. There's nothing worse than not being able to hear someone when they're trying to describe what their character's doing, or their faces being blurry. So I want to get them some good equipment. So all my income for the months between, well, basically the end of May through the beginning of September, I'm going to put toward producing that and getting them good Yeti mics like I have, and some good cameras. So that's what I'll be working on. I might need to get more white thread. I thought I was going to have enough. And this large dot has 9 on it, so. Whoops, that one popped right out. I used a beading needle. It has a smaller eye, so it makes it more difficult to thread. Excuse me. Still getting over that bronchitis I had about a month ago. Oops, see, that one doesn't fit. Some of the beads have a tiny little hole in them, so it is harder to push the needle through, no matter how small the eye is. If you notice down below where I'm crafting, you can see Nerdsmith. One of the creators on Nerdsmith is a show. One of the contents on the show is called Geek Thyself. It's a podcast. Now, I am not a huge, I just don't have time, unfortunately. I don't really watch or listen to a lot of podcasts because I don't have the trouble to work. I basically just come to the basement. Not a huge commute time for me, but I imagine there are several people out there that have to commute, and podcasts are a lifesaver for some of those long commutes. I know I live in Atlanta, and the traffic here is horrendous, and podcasts are always fun to listen to. And Geek Thyself is one of the ones that is featured on Nerdsmith. And so it is the show that all the creators are promoting this week. It's their turn. You can find episodes. They're released every Wednesday, wherever you download podcasts. iTunes and other places. Like I said, I don't know all the places. I had to ask. All right, 3, 6, 7, 8. So this one and then one more. Right there. Oh, I didn't even calculate the number. I need one more. One more sequence. And I did have enough thread, which is good. My old eyes can't thread the needle easily. Okay, so there we go. And I'm just gonna knot that in the back securely. These are all the ornaments that I make are not meant to be toys. However, I do know that especially ornaments on trees or other in other areas of your home that are accessible to children, they are going to get their hands on it. So I try to make them as child friendly as possible, but I still caution anyone to keep an eye on your kids when they get a hold of these, because they do have small parts that could pose a choking hazard. I'm going to throw these little beads away because if they didn't fit through that needle, they're probably not going to fit through anything. All right, so now we can start attaching our little guy here. But let's get some of the parts that need to go on it ready before we get to that part. And that is the loop that goes at the top. It goes right about here, and you can see on the pattern I've marked a little place where it can go. That's the spot that I found that was most ideal for it hanging evenly, level, I guess. So you're going to take your 1/8 inch satin ribbon and just tie a knot like that. I'll hold it up to the camera. It doesn't have to be a very big knot. It just has to be big enough, or big loop. It just has to be big enough for an ornament hook to go through. And I think I have an ornament hook here to show you what I'm talking about. Like this. So just big enough for that to go through so that your ornament can hang. And then just give it a snip, and we're going to sew that when we get around to it. I always need someone in chat to shout out to me when I'm about to get to that spot, because half the time, probably more than half the time, I forget and I just keep sewing, and then it's a little, you can still get it in there. It just takes it's a little trickier. All right, and the other thing we're going to do is this little tail. And this is something that we've never done before, so I'll move this over and show you what I'm going to do. I've already put together the 3 strands. You don't need this much, but just so that you guys can see what I'm doing, I went ahead and cut this much. We're going to braid this, but to make it easier, I've got my little tape dispenser here. I'm going to tape that to my cutting pad here. Now to get it up easier, I'm going to put a little corner there so I can pick that up easier. And then I'm just going to braid it. And you only need about, let's see.
Ooh, hello again, handsome.
Hi, Jake. How are you, sweetie? Thank you for joining me. We're making these cute little elephants. The tail is about 1 inch, including the little knot, but also a little extra, like a little 1/4 of an inch of the fringe hanging off. So we only need about an inch of this. So we're just going to braid. And it's a fairly tight braid. And you can make it longer if you'd like. I know the threads at the end are getting all tangled, but I'm cutting those off anyways. It doesn't matter. Okay. Let's just give it a little extra. And done with that part. You can pull that up. And then I'm going to tie this part in a knot to secure it. Just like that. And that'll be the part that we put inside and then sew on that little knot, and then this will be the part that hangs off, and we'll trim that and give it a little bit of fluff at the end. Just like that. So there's his little tail. Okay. And now, the fun part. Sewing all the way around. Someone has to stop me when we get to that. Well, why don't we start with, let's see, what would be a good place to start? Because we want to be able to stuff it easily. I think stuffing it from his rear end might be the easiest part. So, starting it here would be best. And again, to start that, because it's on both sides and we want to hide that stitch, we're going to go under here. And we're going to do that very, very through the surface part, thin through the surface part, just like that. The needle's not showing through that side, but that hides the knot on the inside and gives us our starting stitch. Like that. And then we're just going to do our blanket stitch around. What are you up to today, Jake? What's going on? If you guys heard it when Jake came into the stream, because he is a Twitch subscriber, he gets a special greeting done by Sir Mimsy. Jimmy Sherwood, a friend of mine on Twitter, is a voice actor, and he is the voice of Sir Mimsy. and I asked him to put together a series of greetings that I give to my subscribers as they come into the channel. So if you subscribe, you get a personal, not a personal, but you get a special greeting. Jake lucked out and got the hello, handsome. Oh, wow, cool. What kind of other stuff does she sell? That's neat. Is it like furniture, or is it small little tchotchkes and gifts type of stuff? Yes, they're I use felt. I use just regular craft felt. I do get the good quality felt at the fabric stores. I sometimes can find the thicker felt at Walmart, but more often than not, the felt at Walmart, because it is less expensive, is also very thin. And you don't want to use that because it will, the stitches don't stay in as well and the edges don't stay as nice. But sometimes I can find it. I recently found some green there that I used for, I think I used it for our leprechaun. So I have used it before, but it's rare that I can find the good quality felt there. And I know that at Hobby Lobby they actually have two different types of felt. They have a standard felt, which is what I get, but they also have an extra thick one that really holds its shape, but it is very thick. So we're just doing this blanket stitch around. Premium type stuff. Awesome! That's neat. Well, I thought these would be cute on a mobile. If you had a jungle theme or a circus theme in your nursery. Or they would just make a cute little gift topper. Like some people, when they give gifts at the holidays or during baby showers or wedding showers, they put a little ornament attached to the bow. Sort of like a little bonus gift on there. And I know a lot of people, when I go to local shows with Aunt Anne's Tree at Christmas time, buy ornaments to use for ornament exchanges, because you can't really duplicate those. They always try to encourage guests at ornament exchange parties to bring unique ornaments, and some of these are pretty unique. I know one of the first ones I made on this stream was the gingerbread hula ornament, and I haven't seen any others like that one. And I was just telling Paper Realms that next week I think I'm gonna try to make a popsicle ornament, and that's very unique, something to go along with the summertime. Yeah, see, that's perfect. When my little girls had mobiles, I can't remember what was even on them, but I do remember that the parts that were hanging from them were removable. So if you have a mobile hanging over a crib, sometimes the little, whatever they are, stars and moons or whatever the mobile has, sometimes those little parts, you can take them off and replace them with whatever you want. So you still have the mobile motor and arms and everything. I'm going to put that in the corner. I'm going to put that one little stitch in the corner. And I think I showed you guys how to do that in a previous one, but I will pull up the sample here. It's easier to see on this gray, dark gray felt with the bright stitching on it. You can see how I did that corner. And that's how we did the legs here. And I replaced the girls' I forget what was on them. It seemed like they were probably some sort of very geometric shaped, if my husband had anything to do with it. He's a math guy. So once we get to the trunk part, we're going to want to, as this part is sewn up, we're going to want to start stuffing that. It is going to be very difficult, especially with the curve, and I think I showed you guys how that happened in one of my other projects, that you have to kind of stuff it as you go, so that stuffing it at the end is not an issue. It's very difficult to put the two things I use, this little metal knitting needle and my hemostats. It's very hard to get that into, once that's stitched up, into little crevices. So we're going to, as soon as it's stitched up to right about here, I'm going to stop and then stuff it from the top, so it's a little easier. Yeah, I think a popsicle would be cute too. And I was talking about making, because Memorial Day is coming up, making it one of those red, white, and blue rocket pops. Remember those that you used to get off the ice cream man when he or she came around? So maybe a red, white, and blue one with a popsicle stick. I think that would be fun to do. Colorful and unique. We'll have to put some sequins on there to make it glitter, of course. And a little smiley face like we did for the pizza, of course. Gotta make it derpy. Yeah, that's perfect, exactly. Yeah, the do-it-yourself ones. Yeah, then they can just get these little elephants in all the different colors and hang those on there. That's what that little loop is for. Just make sure always that it's on there securely, so nothing comes apart over Junior. Safety first. It's nice today. I don't feel pressured. With my youngest over at a friend's house after school today, she's going to ride the bus home with her. I just feel a sense of freedom today. It's nice. Never underestimate the thrill of a mom gets when her kid's on a play date. Although I say that she's an easy kid to. She's pretty easy. She's laid back. She's chill. She just gets on her computer and plays Minecraft anyway, so. But I don't feel called away. I don't feel like I have to go out and wait for the bus and make sure she has a snack and all those mom things that you do. Okay, once we get around this little corner here, this one's a little difficult to do. I know it's hard to see, I'm sorry. Once we get around this corner here, and I'll make a couple more stitches just so it doesn't come loose, we're going to stuff that trunk. There we go. Let's stuff the trunk so that it doesn't make it more difficult. We're going to take a little bit at a time with our hemostats and just gently push that stuffing in and around the corner. You see how difficult that would be, especially if it were all the way sewn. We want it firm. We want it firmly stuffed, but not overstuffed. We don't want the stitches to look like they're popping out because of the stuffing, but we also don't want it to look wrinkly or loose or anything like that. Whoops. Oh, it's getting warm in here now, even without the glue gun going. No Sure Bonder glue gun today for this project. It's all sewing. Okay, so we've stuffed the trunk, and that's all we need to do. We can stuff the rest later as we go. The legs are not tiny little legs. Those are easy to stuff. They don't have very tight corners there. So we are going to finish stitching up here, and when I get to the top, we'll have to add the loop, our ornament hook loop, and I'm probably going to have to get some more thread. I underestimated how much thread I'd need. There we go. Now we're not going to add the eyes until last. Typically, I like to add the eyes before we stuff them, and the reason why is because it is difficult to hide that black thread. I always use the same colored thread as the eyes, so it looks uniform and you don't see the stitching. But it is difficult to hide a black thread when you don't have an interior. And once it's stuffed, of course, we won't have an interior. But I do like, and I'll show you before I knock that off, I do like how this kind of puckers in a little bit. And that's the way you can get that is when you stuff it first. So that's why we're going to stuff it first. And I will show you. You can see I've hidden it inside, and I'll show you how to do that too. We have come to the end of this thread, so I am going to make a small knot here, like this. And I'm going to hide that tail like I always do by just running it backward without showing the needle on either side. And then I'm going to take my tiny scissors here and give it a snip right next to the felt. And then you give it a little pull, and now you can't see that tail at all. It is hidden in there. So let's get some more. Let's get some more of that purple. Oh, I got the squeaky chair today. Okay. I usually get about an arm's length, about 36 inches, 40 inches or so. A yard, a little over a yard. And again, this is that DMC floss, so it comes with, oh, I actually had some in here already. It got tucked down in there, so I'll use that instead. It comes with 6 strands, so I would have had to separate those into 3 separate ones, but since I already had some here, I'll use that instead and save a step. I keep my DMC floss in these little bags. Everyone stores them differently. I just found it a lot easier to then put the strand, the band in it that has the number, like this is black and it's 310. And that way I can keep track of the colors I use for each project. Oh, neat. Okay. Oh, nice. So your commute's easy to work. Your commute and my commute. Just go up or down the stairs. That's neat, though. Okay. This is not easy to do when it's a foot away from my face. Sorry, everybody. Let me just do this. Okay. All right, and oh, I can show you a trick on the trick that I've shown you in the past, I'm sure. Well, that's not even. Let me make them even. This is the trick my Nana showed me. She's the one I got my talent from. I take the thread and I wrap it around my forefinger, and then with my thumb I kind of twist it, and then I use my middle finger to hold it down on my thumb and then give it a pull, and it creates a nice knot at the end, a nice solid knot. And we're going to do the same thing we did at the beginning here as we continue stitches, and that is run that needle through a very thin layer so that it does not appear on the other side, so no needle there, and that hides that knot, that buries that knot in there for you. Yeah, best commute. Okay, so someone stop me when we get right behind the ears to put that little loop. Sometimes I'll pin it there, but then the pin gets in my way. So I just rely on my memory, which I shouldn't, because my memory is not what it used to be. To put that loop. And like I said, if you forget to put it in there and you don't want to take the stitches out to put it in, There is a trick you can do. It just means a couple extra stitches, and it can be a pain, but I'm going to hold the ears back like this so I don't accidentally stitch them using this technique here. Okay, so we're almost to that part, and I'll check my pattern, or actually I'll check my other elephants and see where I put it for them. I would say that I have about 2 more stitches. So right about here. And the way you do that is you take your loop and you put the knot on the inside between the 2 layers, just like this. And we're going to run that needle through. I'll do a close-up. We're going to run that needle through just as if you were doing the blanket stitch, but instead of just going through this part here, the felt, you're going to run it through that knot. I'm scooting that knot over just a little bit more. Just like that. So I'll hold that up to the camera so you can see what I'm talking about. Run it through both layers to the back, like that. And pull it through. And once it's through, and before you tighten anything, you're going to run it back through the top part, but this time between, right there, between that loop. And then run it under that loose piece that you left. And I'll pull it tight when I get up there and show you what I'm talking about. Just like that. And that attaches that loop. Easy peasy. And we'll continue around until we get to just above the tail. We'll add the tail after we stuff it some. As we're closing it up, we'll add the tail then. Boy, I'm glad I did the other side ahead of time, because even though this is a very easy project, it does take some time, especially to go around this larger piece. All of my ornaments, the ones that I have done, I don't make them to order. I make them and then I put them up on my shop. So if you see my Etsy there to the, let's see if I can point to it correctly. Right there. Right there. That's the link to my Etsy shop. And I have all sorts of ornaments up there right now. Now I'm making sure that as I go around here, I'm not accidentally hitting any of that white spot on the back. I have to be very careful that I don't go through that. That's why I wanted to keep them kind of further down from the edge so they don't catch on that. So I don't like that lavender thread to appear on the white felt. I like the idea of coordinating the stitching with the felt color. Okay, so the elephant's tail will go on in a little bit, but we're going to leave that on and we're going to start stuffing. The first thing you want to do when you stuff any large area of your project is always take a little bit and do the tiny parts first. And even though these are really wide elephant feet, I'm still going to want to get that in there and just put a little padding in there to start the feet, and then we can add the bulk stuff as we go. And it just fills out those little corners. You can always tell a sloppy stuffing job if those corners aren't well defined. So if you're going to do it right the first time, right? I'm just adding a little bit of stuffing now to the trunk entrance right there, so that when I stuff it, the rest of the head area, it fills out. Okay, and we're just gonna stuff him. This is my favorite part because it's like you finally get to see it come together. Kind of see him take shape. I'm doing a little bit at a time as I stuff. Again, that is to keep it from getting lumpy with pieces of stuffing that are this polyfill stuffing that is too thick or lumpy. You want to make sure you kind of spread it out a little bit. Okay, almost done with this part. I love these hemostats. I don't know where I got the idea for these things. I love them for this purpose because they have such a narrow tip. They fit into most areas. I forgot to show you all. I think I was describing it last week, maybe. The tiny little fingers that I sewed making my fairies. I need to show you both them and my dice jail. Okay, so this is stuffed, and before I forget, we want to make sure that we get that tail ready, and that goes right about, I'd say, another stitch in. One more stitch. It's ready for it right now. I stopped at just the right time. So I'm going to put that in there, and just the same way we did the loop, we're going to put that stitch through the knot of that braided floss. Now, if you miss the knot, that's okay as long as you are in front of the knot, because then if you go through the braided part, that knot will catch before it gets pulled out. So we'll just go through. Before I finish this stitch, I'm going to test it by giving it a little bit of a tug. Yep, I've caught it, so that's good. And same with we did the ribbon. Oh, I've got it all tangled up here. I'll show you. We're going to go back through the braided part and then through that blanket stitch. Just like that. And that's going to catch on there. There we go. And then continue closing up his little bottom. I just realized we stuffed his bottom. And if you need to add a little more stuffing, now would be the time that you would do that. But I think we're good. I think this little guy's good. If you ever have any questions about the projects that I do, please join me on Discord and feel free to ask in the Aunt Anne's Tree category. I don't mind answering questions at all, and all my patterns are free for my Discord users. So I'm happy to help out. Thank you, Raynick. Thought you were on a work call. Just type in !2 and we get to hear Sir Mimsy.
Ooh.
See? That was your idea. So I would pay attention to chat. And it's not too obnoxious. It's not like him going off on some of his tangents that he does. Okay. Now I'm just closing up the end of this. And then we're going to put the eyes on and we will be done. I like to make sure it has a good solid knot at the end. I don't want to waste all that stitching. And again, I'm going to bury that knot by going in to the project like that, and then out anywhere, and take your scissors, give it a pull, and cut close to the felt, and then because of that pull, it disappears right back into the body, into the inside. All right, let's get the eyes sewn on, and we are done. Yay. For this one, I'm going to use black floss. I've already knotted it. Now, this is a fun trick. Where'd I put my beads? These are my two. I got mixed in with my seed beads here. These are my two 3mm beads. And we're going to need to hide this knot. Now, we don't have a backside because we've made this so that it's reversible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run it through the top here without catching on any of the fabric, or try not to catch it on any fabric. And the way you do that is you carefully separate it. And I can use my hemostats for this actually. Right here. Just kind of give it a separation like that. And then run that needle in. And then out where you want the eye. And I think on my pattern, I put that the eye should go right at the base of his ear. But, you know, wherever you want to put it. I think that's not a bad spot, so I'll do that. Right about there. So I'm going to pull that and see if it disappears, and it did. There's no black dot of the knot there. And that's where you're going to start. You're going to go in there and not do one and then the other. We're going to do them both at the same time. So I like to put the needle in the other side, but not all the way through, so I can look at them head on and see if that is straight. And in this case, it is not. I'm going to pull it back out a little bit and go in a little bit and down until I think it's, yep, right there. That's about even on both sides, right there. Like I said, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it right. So now here comes my 3 stitches. I always like to make sure I do at least 3 stitches on little parts like eyes, just in case a child does get a hold of the ornament. I don't want anything to happen. So I'm going to give that a pull, and that gives it that indent. See, like I did on these? And I'll run that back through to the other side. There's our second stitch. Trying to get it to go through that eye. Keep missing just barely. There we go. Just keep giving it a little pull each time, and eventually it'll become tight enough that you don't have to worry about holding it taut. And there's the last one through that side. And the last one through the other side. That one I couldn't get through because it was so tight. I'm going to have to go through this way. Yeah, you could. You could definitely use, just use a bunch of stitches or knots, definitely. Now to finish this off, I'll tell you where I'm going to hide that knot, and it's going to be behind his ear. Just like that. I'm going to just give it a little bit of a tie. It'll be a tiny little black dot behind his ear. Just like that. Yeah, you could do embroidery. You could embroider his eyes on, definitely. You just wouldn't have that pull, that indent there. And I would suggest doing it prior to stitching the two halves together. And then I'm going to do what I did before and then hide that stitch on the other side. And just poke through the whole way like that. Give it a pull. And then snip it and it disappears into the project. And all you have is that tiny little black dot there that you don't notice if his ears are properly back. And there he is. There's our little purple elephant. He's so adorable. And I do love him with the extra sequins on there. The extra bling. It just makes it. It just makes it. Okay, that's our project for today, our little baby elephant. You know what I noticed? This is a little weak here. See how its trunk kind of wrinkles there? I'm going to take my sewing, well, it's a knitting needle. And I'm going to poke this in through his trunk. And I'm just going to push a little bit of that stuffing out there. And now it's a lot better. Yeah, that's right. It's a little elephant beauty mark right behind his ear. That's perfect. Exactly. And then you can take your ornament hook that, you know, you just keep handy like you do. And it goes in there, and there's your little ornament. And there he is, all done. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me. And again, I want to shout out Geek Thyself, which is our featured show this week on Nerdsmith. The link is below there. And okay, bye, Jake. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. Also coming up Tuesday, or tomorrow, actually, I should say tomorrow first. We're continuing the story on 3 Sheets 1 Shot. You know what? While I'm talking about that, I'm going to show you. Finally, going to remember to show you guys these, my little angels, my little fairies. This one is Rajan. This is what I was talking about with her little fingers. They all have the wires in them, so they can grasp things, and her thumbs too. This is Rajan. I have Elise is up here. She's holding a candle. Their wings are very different. In fact, she's holding a bag of dice, which she just dropped. This is Elise. They sit on a mushroom, so that's why they have a natural sitting position with their legs like that. Each of them are different. I use yarn for their hair. Their wings are a little bit different. And this is my dice jail that I was talking about. This is that was the lid to that. But it's just made out of a box with some stones around it, and I painted it, and I put this little gnome garden gate thing on there to seal it in. I made this, gosh, a couple years ago. And I can't actually find this garden gate material anymore. This, I can't find it. It was at Hobby Lobby and it's gone now, but that's my dice jail. Okay, so tomorrow night, 3 Sheets 1 Shot, we continue with 2 quests that our adventurers may follow out of Ravenscroft. That's tomorrow night at 7 o'clock here on this station. And then Tuesday, we are starting a brand new project with my dear friend Lorena. On her channel, she's going to be making some Modrons. I need to coordinate this with her. I really haven't sealed this deal, but this was the thought. She's going to make some D&D Modrons because she does a lot of steampunk crafting. And so I thought it would be fun to make a piece of terrain on my Tuesday night show for D&D that is like a cavernous, gnomish, steampunk laboratory. So thank you so much, Anna. Thank you. I love it. In fact, there's only 2 like it. My brother has one. I gave it to him for his birthday, and I have one. But it works. I put a lot of dice in here. Anyway, that is next Tuesday on here on Qyjari's Curious Crafts, working on that. We haven't named it yet. We're still in the process of naming what that is going to be, some sort of steampunk terrain for Qyjari's Curious Crafts. And if you are into D&D and are into dice, Die Hard Dice is one of the wonderful sponsors of Nerdsmith, and there's a special discount code you can use if you go to dieharddice.com. You can use Mimsy15 to get 15% off your order, and that was given to me as a discount as one of the creators on the We Are Nerdsmith network. So I'm really happy about that. All right, well, I won't bore you anymore with that kind of stuff. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm looking forward to the rest of my calm afternoon. Everyone have a nice, peaceful, restful afternoon, and I will see you tomorrow night. If not, I'll see you next Thursday. Bye. Thank you, Ray Nick.